Good evening and welcome to New Biz. My name is Leon Thomas, and you're watching the show where we highlight businesses that are new, businesses that are unique, and businesses that do things to help society. Welcome to New Biz Buzz. Here we go. Thanks for joining in to another episode of New Biz. A couple of reminders. Next week, we will have our second run of our highlight shows. So we're going to take the last 5 shows and put together a highlight reel, and you'll be able to watch that because next week is Memorial Day, and we won't be live on Memorial Day. I invite you to also watch Real Thoughts and Conversation that will air on Wednesday at 7 o'clock right here on YouTube. Our discussion is all things pay. Should someone with a graduate degree be paid more than someone who doesn't? What about someone that's an experienced blue-collar skilled laborer? How should they be compensated? Be sure to watch the conversation at 7 o'clock right here on YouTube. Tonight, our guest is Joe Iovenitti. Joe is with Iovenitti Asset Protection Consultants. Joe, hello and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Leon. I'm glad to be here.
Great. It's great to have you with us. And you and I met kind of through a networking organization called Network Referral Group. We were both attending a class, actually, and I put a comment in that said, if you'd like to be on the show, be sure to contact me. And you did. And looky here.
Yeah, here I am.
Here we are. So, Joe, asset protection. What does that mean? What is that? What do you do? What's that mean?
Well, thank you for asking. We all know what an asset is. It's something that you cherish, something that's really important to you. Well, from a business point of view, I look at your assets and I want to protect them. So let me explain what I do. But first, let me tell you my tagline. My tagline is, I help individuals, families, and the business owners protect their most valuable asset and retain more of their wealth. And we'll come back to that in a moment. In my business, I have 4 main legs. The first one deals with business owner cost savings. I help business owners increase their profits, increase their profitability, increase their cash flow through 13 major cost-saving approaches, 10 of which are provided at no out-of-pocket cost and no risk to the business owner. You may be thinking, how is that possible? Well, we share in the percentage of the cost savings generated, and if we don't generate cost savings, we're not reimbursed. The other 3 cost savings all deal with hiring incentives, something to do with potential employees or employees. And there we charge a nominal subscription fee that's selected solely at the discretion of the business owner. And in the last 7 years of my doing this type of business, I never had a business owner reject doing the hiring incentives, paying the nominal subscription fee, because the ROI, the return on investment on it, is pretty significant. My second line of business deals with wealth preservation. And there I have 2 sub-areas that I work in. One, I could defer the payment of capital gains tax at the time of the sale for highly appreciated assets for several decades. And then we have strategies on how you will pay the taxes in the 31st year. Because this is just a tax deferral process. We have to pay taxes. But it turns out that if you could defer taxes, you can take the benefit of the time value of money, which means you'll have more money today that you could invest, do other things to build up your financial assets, and then you'll have more than enough money in 31 years to pay the taxes. There's also another program that I'm involved in, and that deals with conversion of debt to wealth. And let me tell the story of how I got involved in this. I have a future daughter-in-law. She's a PhD psychologist, and she has a mountain of college debt. I helped her and my son buy a home, and now they have a mortgage. They have kids, they have cars, they have the American dream. They're drowning in debt. And I want to find a way I want to see if there was a way that we could convert debt, quickly pay off that debt, and build your wealth. Well, what I discovered is there's two programs out there, or at least two. I found two. One is a computer program that optimizes the payment of debt every month. And people who have used this have been able to pay off a 30-year mortgage in 10 years or less. And of course, it depends on your discretionary monthly cash flow. But if you could follow the program, if you're computer literate, because this is an online program, you could follow it and you could get out of debt much more rapidly than if you weren't doing this type of program. The second way that you could do that is to use permanent life insurance and the cash value that's built up in permanent life insurance. In the case of my daughter-in-law, it turns out the life insurance approach is a better approach because she doesn't have life insurance. She has kids, and she could take a life insurance policy and have a twofer. One, she could have protection in case something happens to her. And these days, there are things called living benefits that come with life insurance. They weren't around when I was younger, and they certainly weren't around for my mom and dad, your mom and dad, and our grandparents. They just bought life insurance to protect the family in case they died. Well, now you can also protect yourself in case you get ill and protect yourself in case you live too long. So you can use life insurance for a number of different reasons. And
so then the life insurance then is a lot of folks are thinking when you say life insurance, it's when I pass away, my family gets, right? So
correct.
$50,000 policy, $100,000, whatever that number is. And there are many folks that have that life insurance policy strictly to pay for burial costs. And so you're saying that there's so much more that we can do with life insurance now.
Yeah, these days, so much more. And what happens if you don't die early? You live long. Today, I may live well into my 80s. My children are expected to live well into their 90s or over 100.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to live to be 189 because
there you go.
I have relatives in my direct bloodline that are 96, 93, 89, and 84. And they're all going strong. So I should look into some of these things that you're talking about. And I hope that others do too. Now, Joe, this sounds pretty, there's a lot that you have to know. There's more about asset protection. Go ahead.
Go ahead. More to talk about.
All right.
And then for business owners, if you have a commercial project, I recently got involved with some colleagues. We have access to a private lender, a billionaire, that provides a 4X line of credit at 3.5% for any type of commercial project. If that's something that's of interest to you, let me know. You really can't beat that interest rate. Leon, it's yours now.
Well, now, thanks. How about that? Joe's giving me my show back. That's pretty cool.
I'm a very magnanimous individual. All my friends know that.
So now it sounds like you really have to be very up to date on the laws. You have to know a lot about finance and everything that's going on. I think you mentioned you've been doing this for 7, 8 years. How long have you been involved in asset protection?
7 years.
7 years. And how did you get involved in asset protection? Because when you and I were talking a couple weeks ago, and we were actually talking before the show, as I understand it, you are a geologist. So how does a geologist get involved in asset protection? I have a feeling there's an interesting story that we're all about to hear, and I haven't heard it. So go ahead. How does that happen?
Well, back in 2014, I'm doing my geology thing, and I get a call from my life insurance agent at the time. And he told me that my life insurance policy is going to be terminated. I was caught by surprise. I said, what do you mean terminated? You told me it's going to last forever. And he went on to tell me that the crash in 2008, 2009 affected my policy, and it's that are no longer going to be enforced. So the conversation went like this: 2008, 2009, he said yes. Why didn't you call me in 2010, 2011, 2012, so on and so forth, when we could have done something about this? Why are you calling me at the last moment? The individual didn't have an answer. And in that moment, I decided, I made my contribution to geology. I've traveled. I've been invited to international symposiums. I've published. I worked for corporations. I worked for companies. I was an independent consultant. I co-owned a geology company. I was going to dedicate the last third of my life. I was 63 at the time. I was going to dedicate the last third of my life to helping the community, because the community doesn't know what it doesn't know. So I learned about insurance. I focused in on life. I learned a colleague of mine introduced me to business owner cost savings, and I jumped on that right away because it's essentially a paid-for-performance type contract. And I loved those when I co-owned the geology company, because I wanted paid-for-performance type contracts. And then I got also involved in wealth preservation, and then most recently, this access to a private lender who has a Forex line of credit.
Wow. So here you are with this life insurance policy, and your agent calls you, 3 years later? And your question was, why didn't you call me back in 2008, 2009?
Exactly.
Right? And he had no answer for that. And you saw that as an opportunity to help others, to help educate others, and to help others. Right. Yeah. And I think that is just so cool, and fits right into, what we do here on New Biz Buzz is something that's unique and different, but it also helps people, right? And sometimes when you hear folks say, I want to do something to make a difference, I want to do something that helps, we're always thinking about, I want to donate money here, I want to give it to a nonprofit. You're showing us that there's so many ways to help people. Right. To help businesses and individuals. And I'm so glad you're doing that. Before we take a break, tell me about a success story. Don't mention anyone's name or any company name or anything like that, but tell me of a success story that you and your consultants have had when you worked with a company or an individual and really opened their eyes and really helped them a great deal. Tell us one of those stories.
Well, no, we all know COVID has impacted businesses. And a lot of businesses have been hurting. I've been able to help a large number of businesses, and even helped one survive, because there's an interesting tax credit that's out there. It's called the Employee Retention Credit. The Employee Retention Credit applies to businesses that have been shut down either partially or in full by a government order, for example, a restaurant, or they've had a significant loss in revenue in a given quarter in 2020 compared to 2019, or in a given quarter in 2021 compared to 2019. That business may qualify for up to $33,000 per employee that was present in the business at that time. That turns out to be a lot of money. So imagine, I talked to a business, and as I said, I had 13 approaches. That one approach, employee retention credit, provided a company with 10 employees up to $330,000 as a tax credit. And that particular tax credit is such that it goes against your payroll taxes. And if you don't have enough payroll taxes for the credit, if the credit is more than your payroll taxes, the IRS will write you a check.
Wow.
It's a way that the federal government is trying to move a lot of money into the business community to help.
Who knew? Wow.
People know, but not everyone knows because it's not published. No, the government doesn't get on and pull out a full page ad in the Wall Street Journal.
Right.
You don't have a YouTube interview with the Secretary of Treasury telling you all these cool things that they have for people.
Yeah.
You have to go to your CPA, your accountant, your business attorneys, and they may not be up on it either.
Yeah. Folks, we're having a great conversation here with Joe Iovenitti of Iovenitti Asset Protection Consultants. We're going to be back to continue the conversation in 1 minute. We'll be right back. We really are. We're going to be right back in 1 minute to continue the conversation. New Biz Buzz is brought to you by Leon Thomas and Associates. If it's virtual, they do it. Check out their website to learn about the array of services they provide, like race relations training. All right, Joe, we're back. So here's the next thing I want to talk about. When you mentioned that you can help with different types of employee incentives. Let's talk about a veteran to use as an example. We have a veteran who was in the whatever armed forces, and we appreciate their service. And now they're looking for a job in private industry. And sometimes veterans have a difficult time trying to connect what they did in the military to what they could do in private industry. How do you help with that?
Well, one of the firms I work with has a free online platform where one could generate a tax credit resume. And I said, no cost. So I've been informing veterans that I know, let's generate this tax credit resume. So this way you could show a potential company that you will want to hire you, what type of tax credits you come with if they hire you. And there's a program that's out there, another federal program called Work Opportunity Tax Credit, or WOTC. And veterans are on the higher end of the scale. They may be able to get up to $9,600 for being hired by a firm. And what I do is I work one-on-one with the veteran. So as we go through a series of questions, I help them translate what they did in the military to what it may be an equivalent in civilian life. For example, I was telling Leon a story where I was helping a veteran that used to drive tanks. He was a tanker. I'm not sure if that's the right term, but he drove tanks. And he goes, I don't have an equivalent civilian life skills. Right. No one uses tanks in civilian life.
Right.
I go, no, but there are semis. I'm sure if you could drive a tank, you could drive a semi. Is that something of interest to you? He goes, oh, yeah, I would love to drive a semi. Well, then there we go. Uh-huh. And things of that nature. So there's lots of ways to know. We just have to think out of the box.
Yeah. And it sounds like you do that for employees, those looking for jobs, but also for those companies. Yeah. Now, so I don't know how many business owners have heard of what you do. What's some of the pushback that you hear when you meet someone that's a business owner, and even if they've called you and said they want to learn more about what you do and how you can help them? What's some of the pushback, some of the objections that you hear on why more people aren't doing this? What are some of the things that they say?
Well, the classic one is, what do you mean you don't charge any money for doing this? And what do you mean you could do that? No out-of-pocket cost and no risk to me. They can't accept that. And I explain, we charge you. We just don't charge you up front. We take a percentage of the cost savings generated. And if we don't generate cost savings, we're not reimbursed. And that's a very hard concept for many business owners to accept. They think, oh, there's some hidden fee that comes up at some point, and they have to get sucked into something that they don't want to do. And I assure them that that's not the case. And you could always walk away if you don't like what's taking place. All I need is about a half hour of your time to qualify you. We also have a website that was created by one of the firms I work for, where you could evaluate 6 tax incentives in 60 seconds. I know it sounds hard to believe, but I went through it with enough people to know that it's true. And if you like it, then you go ahead and you put in your company information, and you go on and we'll set up a meeting with you and we'll go through all the details. But if in 60 seconds you can learn what type of tax incentives are available to you that you haven't been made aware of, and what those may mean to you in terms of increasing your profitability.
Mm-hmm. Now we have about 6 minutes left. I want to go ahead and make sure that everyone has a way that they can get in touch with you, Joe. So your email address, why don't you go ahead and say it? It's on the screen, but you go ahead and repeat what your email address is, Joe.
My email address is JOEIOV, as in Victor, the digit 1 at outlook.com.
All right. So they can send you an email, and anyone watching the show can say, Joe, I learned about you on New Biz Buzz, and somebody can call you as well. You're still using phones. So many companies don't use phones. You call them, want a phone number. There's your number there, 510-290-9247. Now, Joe, what states do you work in?
I work in all 50 states and all territories of the U.S. because anywhere that's a property of a territory of the U.S., a state, we pay federal taxes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so folks, if you're in Maine, Michigan, Montana, and anywhere west, Florida, and anywhere south, Joe can help you, and so that's great to know. And I mean, why not make a contact? And the worst you get is, I don't like it. You move on. But This is something that I want to encourage everyone to look into. Now, we're going to have a disclaimer running at the beginning of the recording, but we're going to also have it now. Leon Thomas and Associates is not endorsing the products or services sold here. We're just giving you an opportunity to learn more about them. We are not attesting to the success or how good or how bad the service is. We're just letting you know that this is a unique business that you may want to get in touch with. So all of the views here are those of the guest, Joe Iovenitti. This is not to be considered an endorsement. Please don't call and say, Leon, but you said. No, Leon didn't say. Let's make sure we have that clear. So, Joe, you're in California, right?
Correct. Northern California.
Northern California. So that means you get snow and hot weather.
We get hot weather, no snow. Well, we rarely get snow, but it does happen. Okay. I live in a town called Walnut Creek, and we're 30 miles east of San Francisco.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, I've been to San Francisco several times when I was in the hotel business. I used to go to San Francisco, and remember training at some cool hotels there, and had a great experience in Chinatown. Some really cool restaurants there. Yeah, good deal. And so one more thing I'd like to talk about. When we mention asset protection, is there any type of business that seems to gravitate towards you that you've had more success with than others? Any industry that seems to be working better for you?
Well, we can help all types of companies, all types of industries. The types of companies and industries that could maximize the type of cost savings that I offer, or through my firm that I work for, are manufacturing firms, hotels, and this is the third one that escapes me. Give me a moment here. Jesus, I'm having a senior moment. I apologize to the audience. I'm sure it'll come back to me as soon as we stop this broadcast.
All right, but we know manufacturing and hotels. Is something big. So if you're in manufacturing or if you're a hotel owner, you probably want to get in touch with Joe. Go ahead.
Automobile dealerships.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Now, something I didn't know about automobile dealerships is that there's something about the insurance. The longer the car stays on the lot or something, and that's why sometimes they'll make a better deal near the end of the month to reduce their inventory. Is that And someone told me that when I was purchasing a car a couple of years ago. But it's the end of the month, we can lower our insurance costs and all this. I don't know if I believe it or not. Have you heard anything like that?
I've heard things like that. There are cycles with automobile dealerships when a new car line is coming. They want to move the old one off as quickly as possible. So that might be the best time of year to buy a car. But no, you could do some research on the net. I'm sure you could find valuable tips on the net. And when's the best time to buy a car?
Uh-huh. Yeah, now, every show, there's always like a big takeaway personally, right? The one for me is about getting that mortgage taken care of early by using the life insurance, right? To tap into that. I never thought of that as an alternative. And wow, that's such a great thing to know. And I'm sure some other folks learn some things here as well, Joe. So thank you. Now we have about 30 seconds. Let's go back to geology for a second. You said you've published, you've been here. Tell us something cool that you've done in geology, or like a major, something that would be really interesting for folks to hear in about the next 30 seconds to 45 seconds.
I had the opportunity to work on volcanoes for geothermal energy development. And I have to tell you, there's nothing better than being able to work on a volcano. Except maybe storm chasers. I think they must have a pretty exciting life. But being around when a volcano erupts, or showing up after a volcano erupted to see the power of Mother Nature, it's amazing. And it gives you a newfound respect for the planet Earth.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting things. Geology, asset protection, you're doing interesting things, and so much of it is connected to helping people. So Joe, thank you for what you do. Thank you for being our guest on the show. It's great having you here.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for your audience for listening to me.
Folks, my name is Leon Thomas. We just had Joe Iovenitti from Iovenitti Asset Protection Consultants as our guest. Be sure to join us for another episode of New Biz Buzz. That'll be in 2 weeks. And join us each Wednesday for Real Thoughts and Conversation, a show where we take hot topics, controversial topics, and we discuss them in a civil forum. Thanks for being here. Again, my name is Leon Thomas, and you just watched New Biz Buzz. Here we go.